Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about collaborative DMing, i.e. rotating GMs, how to do it, how to make it work. This was prompted by a question from Caleb Baton, 3610, on my YouTube channel. Caleb, thank you so much for asking this question. I'm going to read it to you. What are your thoughts on collaborative DMing? Essentially, a pass the baton style of DMing that allows for multiple people to DM portions of the same campaign. For example, DM1 takes Act 1, DM2 takes Act 2, etc. Well, listen, Caleb, this is a great question, and this is actually very relevant because I have done this for a couple different campaigns in my life, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to make this work. I've seen it go not so great, and I've seen it go really well, and I've got basically 5 steps to make this go well. In this video, you're going to learn all 5 steps. You're also going to learn my final tip. Once you understand these steps, I'm going to give you my final tip that'll really pull it all together. You're going to want to stay till the end. You're not going to want to miss this final tip, which is, I think, the icing on the cake, the thing that's going to make this type of game run the best it could possibly be. And I'll be honest with you, this type of game has a lot of potential, a lot more than you might realize. And as I go through these tips, you might realize, you know what? This isn't such a bad idea. I've never thought of doing this before, but you know what? This actually makes a lot of sense because it does make a lot of sense, but you do have to understand how to do it right. And this final tip that I'm going to give you at the end of the video is going to tell you exactly how to avoid the biggest downfall that these types of games tend to run into. All right. With that being said, I want to encourage you all to give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. Hey, it helps me grow my channel. Like a humble adventurer launching out on my own adventure, I'm striving to get to 5,000 subs, and I'm over halfway there, but I need your help. If you enjoy this video, if you enjoy any of my videos, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment, let me know what you think, drop a comment telling me your experiences with this kind of thing or telling me how you disagree with me. I love it. It's all good. And hit that subscribe button. This helps me grow my channel, helps my videos get shared with more people. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much in advance for doing that. With that being said, let's jump into the tips. Tip number 1, decide on a system. Okay. I have seen this go good and bad in a couple different ways. I have seen this type of game run with no system, just full bore. We all sit down in a circle, we get out some lined paper, and we start an RPG, a TTRPG. We literally build the system as we go. Now, this can work really well if you are playing with people who like this type of thing, but a lot of people will really prefer to fall back onto a system of rules that they can kind of refer to. It is a big challenge to ask people to play collaborative DMing type games if they're not comfortable building their own foundation for a system. And I will say that this is a more advanced skill set. So for example, if I were going to do this, I would say, hey, let's play D&D 5e, or let's play GURPS, or whatever it is. We're going to decide on a system. We're all going to be familiar with that system, and then we're going to play that system. So decided on a system, that's the first thing. Step 2. Decide on some basic ground rules. There are some ways that this can go really bad really quickly. For example, when you're the GM, if you give your character a whole bunch of loot, a whole bunch of magic items, and then he passed the baton, this is not going to work. If every GM does that, it's not going to work. Sometimes I've seen groups have, like when someone GMs, their character literally phases out and disappears and they become GM. Other times they run their character as an NPC. If you're running your character as an NPC, you cannot have them doing all kinds of wild and crazy stuff without rolling for it, making them basically God level. Like, you know, you all want to decide on some basic ground rules. What I like to see is I kind of like to see basically GMs just agree to a common sense policy of we're not going to dump a bunch of treasure, we're not going to dump a bunch of loot, and we're not going to play favorites with our character while we're the GM. And I feel like if you cannot actually come to a good agreement, like a common sense agreement on this, you're probably not playing with the right group for this type of thing, because there's a lot of trust involved in this. It's collaborative storytelling in a rotating or seat changing nature. And that brings us to tip number 3. Don't hold on to any super serious plans. And this should be kind of obvious. You might think to yourself, oh, this kind of story would be awesome. And then as soon as the next person jams, it's going to change. Unless you agree to something ahead of time, it's going to change. And that's okay. And in fact, I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. But like, there was one time when I was playing one of these types of games and we started it and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like a dungeon crawl. Turned out to be a vampire slaying game. I had no idea it was going to go there because someone introduced a vampire and it just kept on going. And so you want to play this type of game with a very loose expectation. You want to focus on what's happening Try not too much to plan ahead until it's your turn to GM. There is a good and bad to this. The bad is that it's almost impossible to plan ahead. It's innovative. It's spur of the moment. You've got to think on your feet. The good is that everyone is surprised. Everyone, even the GM, because the GM is only in control of the story for so long. Now let's move on to step number 4. Tip number 4, decide how often you're going to rotate or pass the baton. I have seen games like this go every 20 minutes. The GM chair rotates. I've seen games like this go every hour. It rotates. I've seen games like this go like one GM will GM like an arc of the campaign, and then the players will all jump to another world and someone else will take over GMing and they'll run it in that world, and then it'll jump to another world. So it's almost like a plane chase or like a planes walker type thing. I've seen it done in all these different ways. It can work in any of these ways. It's just really important that you all decide how you want to do it and you kind of think about that beforehand. Like, it's actually really challenging to have the GM seat rotate every hour. It's really challenging, but really crazy and fun to have it rotate every 20 minutes. I've done this both ways. It's way easier to plan if you're going to run different arcs of the campaign in like different worlds or something. It's way easier for the GMs to kind of plan ahead of time for that. However, you do miss out on a little bit of that chaotic nature then. So it's just up to you and your group. You just want to decide how you're going to do this. But those are the ways that I've seen it done, and I've seen it work in all of those different ways. I one time played a game that ran a surprising long amount of time, rotating GM chairs every 20 minutes. This was wild. Literally, there would be a combat would start and the GM chair would pass twice before the combat was even resolved, which is super wild. It's like really fun. But, it's just, you have to decide how you want to do it. And this brings us to step number 5. This is my last step, right before the final tip. And hey, one more time, drop me a thumbs up, drop me a subscribe, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Help me grow my channel. I really appreciate it. All of you awesome people. Thank you. Step number 5 is this: have fun and be gracious. I know that as a serious GM who really cares about the story, it could be easy for me to get caught up in the, I wanted this to happen. Oh, what you just did doesn't make sense. Oh, what you just did isn't consistent. And this could threaten to make me frustrated. Okay. When you're doing this type of thing, GM rotating, unless you're just collaborating with people who are of incredible like-mindedness with you, you really want to let go of those things. You want to focus on having fun, being gracious, and letting the GM be in charge when they're in charge, and just enjoying the immersion. And even if it's not 100% consistent, even if it's a little weird, even if it's a little wonky, maybe they're not even doing a great job. When you have a table of 5 different people who are going to be GMing, rotating that baton once an hour, let's say that you're going to play a 5-hour game, 5 people, everyone's going to take an hour GMing. One of them is going to be the best and one's going to be the worst. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is. But you as a player can help that GM. You can have fun and be gracious. And this is a really big part of it, because what is D&D? What is TTRPG about? Why do we even do these things? We do these things to create intellectual art, to create stories together, to create characters, and then to write the stories of those characters in real time with other people. And we can all enjoy the experience together. And enjoy and experience are key words here. And that's what we want to do whenever playing a tabletop role-play game. It's not about, min-maxing. It's not about having the perfect plot narrative. It's about having fun together. It's about enjoying the experience, about creating together. There are going to be moments that are not going to make sense or be perfect, especially in a collaborative DMing environment, and that's okay. And letting go of that is a really big part of that. All right. It's time to move on to our final tip. Before we do this, I just want to encourage you. I have an ebook, Ultimate Plot Randomizer. Download it. Link is in the description. It's filled with 4 D100 tables that'll help you create plot arcs on the fly. And you know what? If you're going to play a collaborative DMing adventure, nothing better than whipping out the old plot randomizer, random rolling some plot arcs, and throwing stuff at your group they would have never seen coming, that you wouldn't have even seen coming. Super easy. You can just roll on all the tables and you will have a plot arc ready to go in no time. So download it. It's free. And you join my email list. I send out awesome emails and I keep you aware of news, because this channel's going to do big things pretty soon. And I email everyone the news. You'll be the first to hear about it. Okay. Final tip. This is the most important tip. This type of collaborative storytelling works best when you actually work together to build on other people's ideas. So in other words, let's say GM, like I'm sitting here, I'm in seat number 3. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this would be so cool. I'm going to create this character. This would be so cool. I'm going to have this NPC, blah, blah, blah. But let's say GM1 starts something completely different. Let's say I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be a survival campaign in the forest. Oh, yeah, it's going to be so awesome. But then GM number 1, they start a campaign where you're on a stagecoach riding through the prairie, like you're a bunch of fantasy players and you're on the prairie. And I'm thinking, this is nothing like I wanted to do. I had nothing. And then the stagecoach runs into bandits. And then there's a bandit fight. And then the baton passes to the next person. And I think to myself, okay, well, working with that, maybe we'll do prairie wilderness survival. And then it passes the baton to the next person. And they say a dragon swoops in and then there's a fight. And then eventually the players end up jumping on the dragon's back because they're friendly and you fly away to a sky city. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, like these things can get so crazy. But it's really important to keep in mind that the best way to make this type of game work is when all of you respect each other's decisions about the storyline and really take them seriously. And if you can have a group who does this, then you can actually make collaborative DMing work. If you cannot find a group who can respect each other's ideas and then build on those ideas in a great way, guess what? It's probably not going to work. So for example, if this dragon goes up to the Sky City and I'm sitting here and I'm like, this has ruined everything. This is probably not the type of format for me, right? But if I'm sitting here thinking, this is okay, you know what? There was the prairie. I'm going to envision it. I'm going to take it seriously. Then there was the dragon comes out, takes us to a sky city. Okay, gotcha. What's going on here? What could be in a sky city? I'm enjoying the story. I'm in the immersion. I'm letting go of my preconceived ideas and I am taking very seriously the decisions of the GMs who were, came before me. And now that's my turn. What am I going to do? Sky City. There's an angel. They rule as a god, but they're evil. Maybe, the city's beautiful, but it's because they sacrifice children or whatever it is, right? So I want to build on it, deepen it. I want to take the progress that's been made, respect it, and then just build another chapter. And when you can have this mindset about this type of game, and when you can find a group of players who can have that same mindset, it's going to make the game way, way better than if you try to fight each other or something, right? You don't want to be a goober and be like, oh, suddenly a portal opens and you're sent to the forest and now you all have to survive. Trying to force your will on the group in this kind of setting, that will hurt immersion. You want to build on the things that GMs before you have built and then take them seriously and respect them. So there you go. There's my final tip. I think that's the most important tip. If you can master that and these other 5 steps, if you can just get them down pretty well, you're going to have a great collaborative DM experience. Hey, listen, I think this is a great idea. I think everyone should do this at least once. Thank you, Caleb, for dropping this question. Fantastic question. If you have a question for me, drop it in the comments. In the meantime, that's all I've got for this one. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm here almost every day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So hit the subscribe button and I will see you awesome people on the next one.